So let's build a contacts app. We're going to be using the resource module that Angular provides to talk to the server, to put together an app that manages contacts, but it's going to be persistent, unlike the first one we did, which means it's going to save to a database and restore it every time we reload the page. By the end, we're going to be able to get all contacts, see an individual contact's information, and add a new contact to the database. I'm going to be switching between this code view and the browsers throughout this tutorial. On the left here, you can see what I have set up already. We have a table which is going to contain our contact's information, and eventually we'll be able to switch page to see a specific contact's information and also a page to add a contact. So how do we get Angular communicating with the server? Well, Angular provides a module called EasierJSAngular that we can use to talk to the server. We declare that it's a dependency inside the dependency brackets of the module. So if I go back and refresh the page, you can see we get an error. This is because the EasierJSAngular module doesn't come as part and parcel of AngularJS. We have to grab another file. The file is very similar, so I'll just duplicate this script tag and tweak the file name to be angular-resource. If I refresh the page, you can see everything's now working again. We don't get any errors. So now we have access to the resource module inside our contacts module. And in the same way as we ask for scope, we will ask Angular for a resource. Resource is an object that lets us declare resources that we can access on the server in an easy-to-use way. In fact, it's really simple. Here I'll just say var contact, and we use it, by convention we use a capital letter, is resource. And then I just declare the root URL for accessing the contact. So I'll say I want to access the API/contact, and from then on Angular will do most of the rest. There's a few other configurations that you can set up here, but for the time being we'll do without it. Now I can use this contact object to query the database. There's already one contact in there, me, and I'll show you using the console in the browser how this works. To do this, I'll set the window contact to the contact so that I can access it from within the console. So if we refresh the page and I type contact here, you can see that contact is in fact a function. To get all the contacts in the database, I type contact.query, and then I'm going to pass a callback that's going to get run when the query comes back. I'm also going to set a variable called contacts, which is going to hold the contacts list when the query returns. You may have noticed this is a bit funny, that there's a callback, but we're also assigning a variable. This is because the contact.query method returns a promise, which means that the contacts will be an empty array to begin with, but when the query returns from the database, this contacts list will be populated. This lets us use it, for example, as a model for viewing on our page. So now in our query callback, which is only fired when the query comes back, I'm going to console.log the list of contacts that we've just pulled down. You can see straight away we got undefined. This is because we just declared a variable. But then we get G, which is an array of length 1, which is the contacts array that I'm logging. You can see the 0th element is a contact. They were added earlier on today. Their email was my email. We've got a bit of information about my name and a random telephone number for me. So here's our first contact method, contact.query, which will just perform a GET request against the URL we declared in the resource. So what about getting one contact? Well, to do this we have to slightly tweak the URL that we've set here. Angular is clever enough to understand parameters in URLs like this. So if I put a slash in here and then say we want to be sometimes passing the name in, then Angular will do the rest and set up some other queries to make this easier for us. So if I refresh the page and say contact.get, and this is the second one of our contact methods, I'm going to say Tom is contact.get, and then pass a query object. The properties in here will get added to the URL if there's such a parameter there, or will get added to the query string. So I'm going to say the name will be Tom-Ashworth, and remember we're using those clean names. And then I'm going to pass in another callback. Ah, no, I've accidentally hit enter, but it doesn't matter because we can just echo Tom now and see that what we have here is an object that was pulled from the database. If we try that again, and I won't pass a callback this time, and I check the network panel, you can see the request we're making. We're making a GET request to /API/contact/Tom Ashworth, and the response we're getting back is some JSON from the server, which is pulled directly from the database. So let's get all our contacts and put them on the page. I'll jump back into code and use that contact.query call to grab all the contacts from the database. Because contact.query returns a promise that eventually fulfills itself and becomes an array, we can set scope.contacts to the result of contact.query straight away, and I'll just delete the existing one there. Angular will automatically update the page when this query returns, so we can just set this set scope contacts to the promise, and it will sort itself out when the query returns. So now if I refresh the page, you can see that my information has filled out the table that we have there. So that's the basic usage of the Angular resource module for getting data from the server. In the next video, we will use Angular routing in HTML5 mode to show specific contact information, and then in the one after, add a contact to the database.